We off a battle rap. Let's move on to David and his wild, weird, alleged shit. So I'm gonna kick this off with DJ Vlad's tweet. So what did DJ Vlad put up? DJ Vlad puts up, I'm not sure if David killed Celeste Hernandez. Police found her dead body in his car. It's been proven that they were in some sort of relationship and cops have already searched his home. The fact that he still hasn't been indicted makes me think they have no evidence that he killed her. So that's not. Vlad is he's a smart guy and he's had a lot of discussions and interactions around legal process, legal stuff, lawsuits, crime. I'm very surprised that he tweeted that because his premise pretty much is time range, right? Let me try this with Diddy. When was Diddy's Miami home raided related to Rico? Right. Let me see what month that was. That was March 25th, 2024. When was Diddy officially arrested in New York? September. Okay. March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months later. He got arrested 6 months later. So let's take that off the table. You know, the time doesn't matter. The O Block 6, they had probably footage and all that type of shit week 1. You know, some of this stuff takes time. And I think it takes time because these situations are so high profile. It ain't nothing to some of these people to hear a rumor. When I say these people, I mean the authorities. It ain't nothing to them to hear a rumor, get a report, and go grab some regular Johnny off the corner, and we'll figure it out. Fuck around. Go ahead, we'll give him bail. We'll bring you back to court 6, 7, 8 months from now, whatever. We'll figure all this shit out. High profile cases is just treated so much different. Okay, they want their mark. The whole world is looking at the mayors be looking of these cities that these crimes, alleged crimes, take place in. You know, it's publicity. It becomes political. It becomes some sort of shit. Some of these crimes we see go all the way up to the president talking about them, right? And when you got that much visibility, this David situation is pretty much national news at this point. No, not national. Yeah, I said national. It's definitely not worldly to me, but it's definitely national news at this point. You take your time. You put all this stuff together, and when you do make an arrest, especially when you know you're dealing with somebody that has resources, people don't be wanting to charge these authorities. They don't want to charge you and end up like Young Thug. You know, it's like now we got to go fire a bunch of our prosecutors in our prosecution office because we fumbled one of the biggest cases in Georgia history, right? They don't want to do that shit. This guy is obviously the clear primary suspect. It's just not time to charge him yet. You could look at the mafia. Who the fuck didn't know John Gotti was one of the fucking crime bosses of the families? They got to the point where they was walking in the bathrooms and talking to him. The detectives walking up on him and shit like, hey, I just want to let you know we got some news. It's our duty to let you know that this person over here is conspiring to kill you. And we heard that on the wiretap. But we'll see you soon. Look at The Wire. When they ran down in the strip club that they use, when they ran down on Stringer Bell and Avon, Stringer Bell turns around and puts his hands behind his back. McNulty says, "Nah, I'll catch you later." They just take Avon at the time, and they left Stringer. You know, it's about having all your ducks in a row and then coming and grabbing them. All right. And let me listen to an actual lawyer break some of that type of stuff down too. Yeah, I'm very surprised that Vlad tweeted that because it's one thing to think that, wow, it's been a long time since a primary suspect allegedly has been arrested. It's another thing to say that because of the amount of time that has passed, that makes me feel like he's not guilty. Come on, Vlad, wake up. You're smarter than that.
Are you surprised there is no arrest? Are you surprised that there has been no identified suspect, no identified person of interest by authorities? And what does it tell you that we're at that point?
I think it's very early still. I think that this is a complicated case. I think that there's a lot of information that needs to be sussed out first by the investigators, by the crime scene analysts and the like. And I think it's simply too early for there to be an arrest. I think an arrest right now would be premature, and that would then be something that defense counsel would jump on. There wasn't enough information to arrest. There wasn't enough probable cause to arrest at the time that they did. But I think that everyone needs to be patient. I'm sure an arrest will be forthcoming.
Can you explain what the disadvantage would be for law enforcement and for prosecutors for essentially making that announcement before they're ready to take some sort of action? What would be the problem?
Sure. So in order for an arrest to take place, there needs to be probable cause for the arrest to happen. And I just don't think that they're there yet. If they arrest somebody too soon, then their lawyer can go into court and argue that there wasn't probable cause for arrest and try to get the case thrown out.
And to be clear, once again, I said it before, I'll say it again. David has not been identified as a suspect. He has not been implicated officially in any wrongdoing. If he has not been arrested, if he's not been identified as a suspect, is it possible right now that authorities and prosecutors are thinking he may not be connected to this? He may not be responsible for Celeste's death, or they might be looking at alternatives there, or they may be trying to see if he has a connection here. I mean, what should we be taking away from that?
I don't think we should take anything away yet. I think what we should take away is that this is a messy crime scene with a lot of unknowns. And I don't think that if I were David, I wouldn't be resting easy by any stretch of the imagination. But if I were the public, I wouldn't be clamoring for them to hurry up and do something. I think these things take time.
What would you advise him if you were representing him right now?
Not to say anything and not to do anything.
What does that mean? Because right now he canceled the rest of his tours. He broke the lease, apparently, moved out of that rental property that was searched. Those are significant actions. That says something.
If I were his attorney, what I would advise him to do is lay low, do nothing, don't obstruct the investigation, but we're under no obligation to cooperate with it either. And just let your lawyers do what they need to do in order to get from point A to point B.
What do they need to do? Remember, I think it's interesting when we talk about a high-profile celebrity case and what might be happening with lawyers. We covered the Diddy case extensively. You covered it with us as well. His lawyers, before he was officially arrested and indicted, they were in constant communication with prosecutors. At least they tried to, when it came to what he was doing, his movements, surrendering his passport. Is there a communication happening between his attorneys and authorities? And what does that communication look like?
I would imagine there's some communication. And what it really is you're informing the prosecutors of where your client is, your client's availability. What you don't want is for them to come into your client's house in the middle of the night and arrest them. In a situation like this, I reach out to prosecutors where I have a client who's a suspect. I say, look, you know me. Let us know where you need us to be. We will turn ourselves in at any moment, rather than you coming to my client's house or my client's place of business, 10 officers deep and taking down the door. Let's cooperate.
Yeah, you're not always going to get that type of luxury, though. It don't matter who the fuck you are. Even with Diddy. Diddy, when they grabbed him, when he was in New York, so allegedly him and his legal team, they were prepping for it. Like, all right, let's stay close to where this indictment is. And when they're ready, hopefully that also shows that we were cooperative enough, and we want that to then get us bail, get us a bond, see that we're so cooperative, we're not a flight risk. I'm not trying to go do the race on y'all. It didn't work though. And we saw the reports come out after. It was just like his first initial bail request got denied. And it was just like, damn, but he was so cooperative. And they was just like, you don't get a cookie or a pat on the back for doing the right thing. And I was just like, ooh, all right. It's like, they're like, no, like, obviously, you know what you got going on. The video came out and shit, right? With you and Cassie, you're a target and it is going to happen. And yeah, your lawyer, your legal team is in touch with the prosecution or the prosecutors, but it doesn't mean that everything's going to be a coordinated effort. No, look at the, which one was it of the twins from the NBA? When he got grabbed up and it was alleged initially, it was over a debt with a casino. The Morris twins. I forget which one of the Morris twins it was, though. The footage came out later on. They grabbed him at the airport. That ain't no coordinated shit. He about to fly out, have a little vacation. He's there with his family and shit, and they pulled up. The only thing that they did for him was like, yo, just take a walk. We won't cuff you right here in front of everybody. Just take a walk. Just shut up. Just take this walk over here. Take this walk. It's like, oh. Yeah, David ain't gonna get that luxury. Who the fuck is David? I get it, he's a big artist, but hey, we just want to we saw that on the Chappelle show. Remember that skit? But it was just like, if it was reversed and black people got treated in the legal system the way the white folks did. And remember, he was like on the phone with the prosecutors, like, all right, well, how about I turn myself in around, like, let's say 5 p.m. He's like, yeah, that's cool. And he still showed up late. Dude is not getting all that shit. Especially, this is a murder investigation. All right. If you're capable allegedly of murder, you're capable of many things in the eyes of the law. So now I expect you to act like an angel and all this shit. No. I'm cracking through that fucking door 3:00 in the fucking morning. I'm breaking out the handcuffs. Hopefully for you, you've already had your ducks in a row because you knew that you was the primary suspect. Okay. Period.
negotiate with you. You know what we're going to do. We're going to turn ourselves in if and when it gets to that stage of the game.
If there is some sort of action in this case, what will it look like and what can we expect?
I imagine that the first thing that would happen is there would be an arrest of David. I'm imagining,
or someone else.
Or someone else, right? Someone will be arrested in this case, I imagine. And if it is somebody like David, whose attorneys have already been in touch with the prosecution, they'll most likely arrange a time for him to turn himself in. If it's someone else, someone random off the street, someone whose name we don't even know, that person could obviously just be arrested at the spur of the moment.
Isn't there surveillance cameras of someone depositing a body into the car? Or they look to see how the car got there, who was driving it. Maybe they don't have all those answers. You would think in the Hollywood Hills there would be some sort of video evidence to document something about that car, no?
I'm sure that there probably is, but again, I caution some patience here, because what the last thing that the folks in LA want to do, LA County is a strange place. California sees high-profile trials all the time. They tend to go a little sideways. They're certainly full of surprises and unexpected details. I think they really want to have all their ducks in a row before they pull the trigger.
Why no cause of death? Why has no cause of death been released? I mentioned before that there needs to be additional testing, but the reports indicate the LA County Medical Examiner's Office won't even say what that testing is.
How did they not at least come out and just say like murder at this point if the body was dismembered? That's not an accident. And you want to know, like, you could maybe deem as a body dismemberment accident, like some of these fucking warehouses that are chopping steel or something. Somebody allegedly falls into a machine on accident, but then you don't end up in a trunk, right? So yeah, why haven't they released that yet? But I gotta take my own advice. It's just the due process of them trying to line everything up is as strongly as possible. You can't say 100%, but as strongly as possible.
Something about these remains not clear cut. They need to do additional testing, but like, why not even say what that testing is?
I don't think they want to show their cards yet. For example, and this is just a hypothetical, what if she was pregnant? What if the testing has to do with DNA testing and they're hoping that, or they try to find out who the father is of the unborn child? That testing takes some time, and that's certainly not something they want to show their hand on right away. Drug testing, things along those lines. Forensic testing does take time.
When do you think we can get an update there?
I don't know. I think that's a tough question to answer. It's something everybody wants, but again, I don't think they're in any rush. If it's David, everyone knows who he is and where he is. I don't think there's a concern that he's going to abscond. I think they're going to take their time because they want to get it right.
Is it unusual to you that we don't have a cause of death right now that's been released, or is that standard practice?
I think in a case like this, where it isn't something that's blatantly obvious, it's relatively standard practice. Again, they're not going to show all their cards in the beginning.
Do you think there's going to be trouble determining time of death, which can be very important for prosecutors as well?
I think that time of death is going to be tricky in this particular situation, especially because, as far as we know, the body seems to have been there for a significant period of time. I think cause of death is something that's going to be easier to figure out than time of death.
If he was on tour when this body was found, does that hurt the prosecution's case?
When it was found or when it was killed?
Right, when the person was killed, right? That's a good point. I mean, when the body was found and he was on tour, leaving a body in a car in a public area that's going to be towed. I've talked about this before. It's a couple of things. One, right, it could be framing. It could be just sloppy, or there was a plan to do something else, but the car got towed before you could do something. Am I crazy to think about these alternatives?
Or panicking. Or a third party was involved to get rid of the car, and they panicked, or they got rid of it their first opportunity. I think that there will be more information forthcoming without a doubt. A cause of death will be forthcoming. I think we just need to wait and see what that testing is.
You think it was wise for him to move out of the property? Do you think he consulted with his lawyers before doing that?
I think that it probably made sense for him to move out of the property for a few reasons. If they were going to execute search warrants on the property, I wouldn't want my client there at the time if my client has the ability to vacate the property. The last thing he needs is for the media to be following cameras through, like in Diddy, and have people there while search warrants being executed.
What do you think is going on with the materials that were reportedly obtained from the home? There's been reporting about computers and electronics, maybe.
Not just that. It becomes constant media and people outside the crib. Like every time you're coming and going, people got cameras in your face and shit. So who wouldn't have left that crib?
Trying to establish whether or not Celeste had a connection to that property. What are they looking for?
So the digital forensic analysts are going through all those materials with a fine-tooth comb. They're seeing what the chains of what the lines of communication were, if any, between Celeste and David, were there emails, were there text messages, were there Instagram photos, whatever there was that they can use to connect those folks together and create a timeline for the prosecution.
You heard before that TMZ reported they might be looking for blood as well. Would that be making sense to you?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then what does that testing look like?
So it depends on where they're looking. I mean, if they're going through a home, they're doing a forensic testing. They're doing almost like we see in the movies. They're getting down on their hands and knees. They're taking swabs from carpets. They're taking swabs from furniture. They're doing exhaustive testing of the materials themselves to see what they can find. They're pulling up drains for hair. They're examining bathtub drains for chemicals that can be used to dissolve bodies. It's all gruesome, but that's what they're doing.
Do you think prosecutors are working hand in hand with law enforcement in terms of obtaining this evidence and conducting this investigation?
There's always an interesting relationship between prosecutors and the investigators themselves. Right. Different jurisdictions handle it differently. Oftentimes, prosecutors assist law enforcement in writing search warrants to make sure that the search warrants are relatively watertight, because the last thing you want is a defense attorney to come in and challenge the grounds of the search or challenge the search warrant and perhaps get important evidence thrown out. So it's not unusual for prosecutors to assist investigators in drafting and reviewing their search warrants.
Do they assist also with interviewing witnesses, potential suspects, anything like that?
They can. I think more often than not, the interviews are conducted by actual investigators themselves rather than the prosecutors who subsequently be handling the case.
It's interesting. And we don't have a definitive connection here between David and Celeste. There's rumors online I talked about. There's what TMZ has reported about it. Is it unusual that law enforcement haven't officially come out and announced whatever connection there is between the two? And by the way, I wonder how much they might be trying to get information from family, from friends, from people online, from tips, which can get complicated when you're dealing with a celebrity like this.
Sure. I mean, the last thing you want to do is a rush to judgment, because that's what the defense attorney is going to stand up and say during his.
The whole getting information from family and friends, I'm about to put a twist on that. That's going to muddy the waters a little bit. Give me a second. We got like another 90 seconds of watching this one.
Or her opening statement, and then again at their closing argument. They're going to say this was a rush to judgment. Before they had all the facts lined up, they already pointed his finger at this particular suspect, be it David or somebody else. So it's not surprising that it's going slow. I think it has to go slow. And it's certainly not surprising they're not talking about any connection between these two, because again, if David didn't do it, you don't want to tar and feather the individual with saying that, he's a highly regarded suspect in a particular case.
And you also have to think about who would have had access to the car if it wasn't David. Real quick, are they doing a deep dive into Celeste's life, and how can they track her movements and her actions from when she went missing in 2024? How difficult is that? What do you think's going on there?
So I'm sure they're interviewing family. I'm sure they're interviewing friends. And I'm sure they're doing a very deep dive on her sort of digital footprint, as it were, her phones, her social media pages, all those other things, to try to establish a timeline of who she was talking to, when she was talking to, and when those communications stopped.
And her remains being released back to her family now. Is that significant?
It means that they're done with whatever testing is going to be done on those remains. So whatever testing is going to take place has taken place, or, and not to be graphic, they've taken whatever samples they need in order to test in the future.
William Corman, thank you so much.
Always pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Now, here's the thing that's scary to me. When you need key people for an investigation like this, because you can't have allegedly a 13-year-old, what's the age, while he's 19, 20, 21, whatever. A relationship like that, I just feel like people know, right? This underage girl and this guy that's much older than her, like friends know. Hell, I seen some of this in the movie yesterday, and we're going to get there towards the end of the stream. But friends know, family should know, mothers and fathers in the fucking chat. If your 13-year-old daughter is maintaining a relationship on the phone and text messaging and going out and hanging out and sleepovers and partying or whatever with some guy, especially if he's older than her, you probably know, or you know something. But here's a twist. Allegedly, what if the family knows, but they're not going to cooperate because this type of shit is happening? David allegedly paid his underage girlfriend's parents $10,000 a month to approve their relationship. Celeste Hernandez was only 10 years old when they first started dating on Fortnite. Allegedly, of course. 1,000% allegedly. But it's possible. Am I just pulling this out randomly and saying, hey, let's pull this up? Don't expect any cooperation from the parents. That never happens. This one came to mind for me when I saw it. I said, oh, no. The world is the world, people. R. Kelly. I'll still say allegedly. Prosecutors played the videos for the jury after their star witness, using the pseudonym Jane, that was the little girl in the R. Kelly case, testified last week that it's her with Kelly on the videos. Now 37, this fast forward years later, the woman told jurors Kelly sexually abused her hundreds of times from the time she was 14 until she turned 18. Kelly, now 55, was around 30 years old at the time. So allegedly, she was a teenager and he was in his 30s. Allegedly. On Monday, Jane's mother, who used pseudonym Susan, took the witness stand. She said she initially did not know what was going on when her daughter began spending a great deal of time with Kelly. What the? You didn't know what was going on when your teenage daughter started spending a whole lot of time with this grown-ass global celebrity in his 30s. Can I sell that to y'all? You damn sure ain't gonna sell that shit to me. Imagine I woke up on one of y'all parents right now, and a global superstar, R. Kelly, a global superstar, and I say, hey, nefarious one, you're asking me why my daughter, right, who is 13 years old, is dating Nas. Nas is older than in his 30s, but whatever. A high-profile icon, we're a household name. And I'm gonna tell you, I didn't think of nothing going on throughout all this time that they spend together. Would you believe me? Would you even give me benefit of the doubt? No, you wouldn't give me none of that shit. And you're not supposed to. You're supposed to say, what? The most I could give you is you're one of the stupidest, nastiest parents. Maybe you shouldn't be a parent at. That's the best I could do for you. You're that dumb. On Monday, Jane's mother, whose pseudonym daughter, began spending all that time with Kelly. Okay, prosecutors have said Kelly paid off Jane and her parents so they wouldn't testify against him at his 2008 child pornography trial in Cook County, at which he was acquitted. He ended up beating it. Jane didn't testify at the trial, and it wasn't until recent years that she began cooperating with federal investigators. So we saw those reports a million times. I think the prosecutors, I'll still say allegedly, laid out what they thought was evidence of like almost $20,000 worth of payments from R. Kelly to the family, and they was all overseas and all this shit. They laid out, I think it said in this here, right? Hold on, let me see. Susan testified in 2000 the family was contacted by Illinois Department of Children and Family Services with regard to allegations involving Jane and R. Kelly and the sex tape. She said the family met with Kelly and his manager to talk about it, and Kelly asked her and her husband, are you with us or are you not? That's crazy. It's fucking insane. That is fucking insane, allegedly. There's parents like that out here, B. Look at that child as a meal ticket. Whatever. My 13, 14-year-old girl is possibly getting taken down by this 30-year-old superstar. I don't care. You about to get this record deal, though? Are you about to make us millionaires? It's like leasing out your child. Allegedly still, but you think the first time we ever heard about this is for David? No, I just showed you. I just showed you. You know what made me disgusted? That whole R. Kelly documentary that they was doing, to see how many parents were giving their children to R. You know, dropping them off at the studio and taking them to the concerts, and you fed your child to R. Kelly despite all the rumors, despite even his style of music and how sexual his content is. If I had no rumors around R. Kelly, if I'd never heard nothing about Aaliyah allegedly and nothing, I just didn't even pay that much attention. I should at least look at the age difference, but okay, you got these older guys that work with younger kids. Look at Jermaine Dupri. He's got a long resume of working with younger kids, crisscross and all this. Cool. That doesn't mean you're doing nothing. I get it. But when you talk about man and little daughter and spending all this time, and the music is over sexualized from R. Kelly, here I am trying to support you getting into the record industry, but there's got to be boundaries. There's got to be some level of supervision. If you can't protect your child, and then you might even take it worse. Allegedly, you might even cooperate with your child getting done dirty for money. Allegedly.